Welcome to the Isle Chat podcast with me, Beth,
Josh,
and Ryan.
This podcast is all about exploring the big questions, the small moments, and everything in between.
Whether you're stuck at the shops, in traffic, or just looking for some inspiration, our chat is here to keep you engaged.
It's time to talk, connect, and find meaning in those everyday moments.
Welcome to the Isle Chat.
So before we get into this week's podcast, basically what we've been aware of is that we never mentioned about who we are behind this podcast. The funny thing about that is we're actually self-sponsoring it. And while we don't have any other sponsors in that place, unless you want to get involved, we thought it'd be a good time to actually introduce ourselves and what we do. So my name is Ryan and I run Roll and Stop Photography Shop, a photography business based out of Liverpool, but also go all over the UK.
I am Josh, one half of Memory Box Films with Beth. We are a wedding videography team based in the Northwest.
And the boss thing is about us, as well as the podcast, we do joint packages together. So if you haven't actually booked your photographers and videographers for 2025 and 2026 season, which does come around quicker than you think, definitely worth checking out both of our social pages and finding out a little bit more about who we are behind. Anything to add, Joshy?
Well done, Ryan.
There you go. Now into the podcast. Episode 29 is upon us. To be honest with you, I wouldn't say I didn't think we'd get this far, but it's nice that we've got this far. And what I was just going to say to you is, and this is what I thought about before we came, where is the milestone? What signifies a milestone in episodes to use to?
I would probably say 50 to 100, possibly. 50. Maybe 100, I think.
I did think 50.
Yeah, probably 50, because I feel like it has taken us so long to get to 28 because of obviously our busy lifestyles, but now we're on a roll, we're doing one every week. So yeah.
But no, I think 50 because as you've said then, Beth, realistically, how many are you going to do a year?
Oh yeah, so especially in our world.
We started in 2023.
Yeah, I know.
Which is crazy to say, isn't it, really?
Yeah, as soon as that peak season starts hitting,
it's harder to get through.
Much harder, and then people start having new kids and all that, and
at the moment, with the latest episode in particular, the amount of response we've had has been unbelievable. Like, considering we haven't put one out for a while, I know we've been pushing it more and more on different platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, but the feedback that we've had from previous brides, like Ashley getting in touch, so she listens to the full episode, and we mentioned her beloved Craig, her beloved Craig, Chris, who you called Chris, and obviously good sport. He said he actually
it's funny thing. Can I just say, just very briefly, because I was going to talk about this anyway, on the basis of social media use, obviously people will have probably seen a massive uptake in the amount of posts that we're doing, both on the actual post side of things and stories as well, across all of our channels, and that is in no short is in full appreciation, no short task from you two putting that effort in. So I wanted to, even though I've said it to you, I said nice on that, I just wanted to say publicly thank you both so much for doing that, because it doesn't go unnoticed.
Very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Right, we're the dream team, that's what we're about. We all strengths and weaknesses.
That's it, strengths and weaknesses. And also, we've had future brides sending some lovely feedback and even reshared it on the stories, basically saying this is the reason why we booked you, which is, again, makes it all worthwhile while we're doing the podcast.
And also, sorry to interrupt, and also past brides.
Yeah.
We've had past brides who obviously have used our services, obviously in really the finishers, they don't need to look at any and we do anymore, and they're still like, oh my god, I love it,
still promoting
can
us.
we go out for a drink?
Yeah, but even and I know I'm going around the world talking about this, but even suppliers, we always have suppliers who are going to be future hopefully guests on the podcast, who are promoting the podcast, and even previous guests and suppliers that we love, like Little Beth Illustrations, our friend Abby. Just you don't realise, even though you might see our clips and stuff and you might be like, oh yeah, or you might even just brush past it, just giving a like or a comment or even resharing it, what that does for us, and makes, as you've just mentioned then about the time that goes into making the clips, it makes it all worthwhile. And I think a lot of people in our industry, or just business owners in particular, who take time to create reels and stuff, you can overthink it so much and you start to doubt whether you should put that clip out or not.
But it's a thankless task, because you might have seen this week, and it wasn't a hissy fit from me, but I actually put on my own social media Roll and Stop page, if you don't follow it, what is it that people want? Because here we are in the background trying to promote and push all this lovely content, in our opinion, out to the open world, but we don't know how much of it is either reciprocated from them actually taking notice of what we're doing, or actually fall into the right eyes and ears. So it's nice to know when people do comment and share or tag or like or talk to us when they see us. It does go a long way, I think.
So thanks to you all
Thanks
for
so much.
listening, and just go on.
Like, obviously, elephants in the room. This is a guest-based podcast, this one, and I think he's been sitting here very calmly so far. He hasn't got it, but I just like, we obviously wanted to try and change things up a little bit. Didn't we? We always said, like, the way that we do our guests is we would like it to be a little bit more, even though we're going to speak about them and what they do and stuff like that, more of like an open book.
Yeah.
Do you know, and like a more conversational based. So we're going to introduce him first before any of the bits that we're doing, apart from that big eulogy that we've just given.
Yeah.
Wrong choice of words.
Yeah.
And just introduce him first. So we've obviously talked about it already. It's our friend, Zanda Magic. Who's over there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It has been a long time coming. I feel like I say that to every person who comes on as well.
We've spoken about it a number of times.
Yeah,
we just haven't been able to tie dates up and tie times up. But I'm really, really pleased that I managed to come on the show today, and it's a great privilege for me. I know I've said it to you a number of times, but I've seen all the previous guests that you've had on the show, and for you to invite me on the same sort of show, it really is a great privilege for me to be on there.
What a humble man he is.
We appreciate you being here as well. And we did ask you before, didn't you? Like, have you ever done a podcast before or radio or anything like that? And for whatever reason, you said they didn't work out. But I think because we've just hounded you for that long, you had no real choice.
To be honest, I'm not just saying this is my favourite podcast. I'm not just saying it. I'm not just saying, I don't listen to like loads of podcasts, but I think you guys, you do a tremendous job. You really do. And I've just seen a very small snippet from behind the scenes today with all setting up the lighting, the cameras and things like that. And for the people watching, if you're a layperson like me in terms of podcasts, you've no idea the amount of work that these guys put in behind the scenes to make the actual podcast work. So, as I said, it's a great privilege to be on here, and you guys are doing a tremendous job, and I wish you all the success with it as well.
Don't put the camera on me, Beth. I'm not coming.
I'm emotionally not ready for this chat. No, but as we've just mentioned, then we've wanted you on for a while. We've got a whiteboard in the studio that we put like our hopefully future guests.
Yeah.
And I say we've been on there. For
you've had a firm position on that list, and that's been rubbed off and redone so many times. Brilliant. Your name's always been on there. Nice. But we see you everywhere, don't we? Like, especially lately, we've seen each other at like more weddings than ever. I would say.
We only did a wedding a few days ago together, didn't we? Right?
Was that both of our first wedding in 2025, or?
It was.
It's definitely my first wedding. I know that.
It was my second wedding in 2025.
Someone's doing it all right.
Is it busy this time of year for you doing weddings?
It sort of varies really, because you do get weddings, but you sometimes get other events. Surprisingly, you actually get Christmas parties in January. So some companies, when December is so busy and packed out, and it's obviously just too much to put a Christmas party on, they leave it until January to put on.
Is this more like hospitality businesses, events who are doing this sort of thing?
Sometimes it can just be a normal sort of a corporate company.
And
the things
just didn't get the time.
Well, firstly, we haven't even mentioned what you do, Alex. So that'll be a good start.
Yeah,
so
sure.
What's your profession?
So
I feel like I'm in the job centre here. What is it?
I always see myself as an entertainer, more than a magician, and my way of entertaining people is through performing magic. But whenever anyone talks about me, that's how he's a magician and things like that. But for me, it's all about entertaining people. So when I go to a wedding, I'm booked to make sure guests have the most amazing time at the actual wedding, and I do that by sharing my magic with them that I've honed over the years of performing. So I get to go to so many wonderful events, obviously lots of weddings, and I've worked with yourselves on so many wonderful weddings as well. And I go around and I mix and mingle between guests, breaking the ice, bringing groups together. The idea is to get people talking on the wedding day, because the bride and groom, they spend so much money getting the wedding day together. They spend so much time planning it. The last thing they want are people in their own friendship groups, not really
which
mingling. And it happens. It's a natural thing that we do. So the magic's a great way to break the ice, because I could be with a group of 4 or 5 people, and then I'm entertaining them, and people are hearing gasps of astonishment and rounds of applause, and so I'll invite another group over. Then you've got maybe a group of 10 people there. By the time I've left that group of 10 people, obviously they've got the wedding day to talk about, but they've got something else in common. They can talk about the magic. Oh, how did he do that? Or I think he might have done it like this. Maybe did you see him do that? Or I didn't see that. And then with another group over there doing something different. So my job is to entertain people through performing magic, break the ice, bring people together, and give them a magical and memorable experience.
Well, I was going to say, we can vouch for this because we've witnessed you on many occasions.
Pay you later.
Can I just say that introduction about yourself was amazing? I was like that. Even I know what you do, but you're like, when I get married, I'm booking you.
Oh, you are kind.
But it is like, for us, we've seen you so many times at weddings, and we can see how important your role on the day is.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I did say off air before in regards of like what you do. Do you find yourself seeing other magicians or entertainers in the industry as like, how to put it? I was going to say busy, but is the market huge for magicians in weddings?
Well, I think when I first started trying to break into the wedding market, I saw a bit of a gap in the market for entertainment. And it's one of those things where I find that a lot of people won't initially think about having a magician at a wedding because they can have a preconception. Maybe it's a little bit cheesy. They've got a picture of someone coming with a top hat and a rabbit in the hat or something like that. Naturally, that probably won't work at most weddings. But when they actually see it live, that's when I can really sort of sell my services, if you will. And I say sell, but I mean just give them the idea that this could be something that could be really beneficial on your wedding day.
I think we've spoken about this before. Like there's I guess a preconceived idea for most things in any shape or form of life, really, but especially weddings. Like people get this preconceived idea that if they've ever been to like one of their friends or relatives, what a wedding does look like. And I think sometimes people don't know what they can and can't incorporate. But I think even the things they think they want, they think that there's like a certain way that actually is.
Yeah.
And I think hearing you talking about it, like the way you just have, in like more of a way that's kind of like the way we say that like line, don't we? Sometimes like with people first and then photographers second, to know that that's your approach, that you're not thinking about it just as like a performer, you're thinking about it as like to gain kind of people's attention and emotion and to connect people. So it's more than just doing the trick, it's what it actually does for the group.
It's all, for me, it's all about making them the centre of attention. It's not about them going, oh, look at the magician, isn't he clever doing that? It's about making the magic happen in their hands. And when you do that, you're giving them this experience that they can't get anywhere else. They can't go to the shop and buy it. They can't get the same experience from watching it on TV. They have to be there and then in that very moment. And that's something that I think, certainly from the feedback I've had from clientele, is that I've given the guests an experience that they couldn't get anywhere else. Yeah. And that's something that I feel really, really proud.
Do you think in this modern world as well that we're in now, like where everything is so like on telly, so instant, so like I guess people don't find that like kind of real buzz or joy anymore as like they once maybe did. And like, I don't know, well, I always relate back to like the 80s and 90s, like when I was growing up. It was so much easier of a time where things just had more like meaning, even moments had more meaning. Do you think as a this goes proper deep, doesn't it already? But like, do you
how many minutes are we in?
Do you think as a people we've all kind of lost that idea of what like true joy really is sometimes, and do you bring that back?
Well, potentially there is some of that to be taken into account there. But I think a lot of people, when they see a magician perform, whether it be myself or somebody else, they're seeing something they have never seen before. A lot of people, when they see a magician, the magician sharing something that they've not seen before. For example, they might have only seen their uncle do a quick card trick, or that old card trick where you count out 3 piles of 7 cards and it takes 10 minutes to end and things. But when they see a professional entertainer sharing something with them as skill, it's something I think they really appreciate. And you probably see it with your own photography. If you take a picture of somebody, then you show the bride and groom straight away, they could have this response like, wow, I didn't know he was going to look like that. And it's like when they see your reels or your videos that you send them when you of the wedding day, it's an experience where they're looking back and they're going, wow, this is a tremendous thing.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I always think about like how I got into filming weddings. I know that's like a big cliche of ours, like tell us where it all started. But how did it start? How did you get into magic?
Yeah. Well, I suppose I can tell you like a short abridged version, or I can give you like the main
3-hour version. No,
well,
do you know what?
We're trying to cut these down to an hour now. So the shorter version's great.
No, to be fair, you tell us in your way how, and we'll obviously just ask questions.
I suppose really, I've got to like say everything like I have and I've achieved, or I might go into have and achieve. I really have to owe it to like my mum and dad, my parents, and I have to give them like not just a shout out, but like the biggest shout out.
Give them a shout out, right? Go on.
Have a shout out. What's the names?
So Elaine and Ian.
Elaine and Ian, shout out to Elaine and Ian. Continue.
Because everything that I do, they're always so supportive with it. And I think when I was younger, I was like immersed in performing without even realising it. So my parents would take me to shows, like when the Chinese circus was in town, we would go to watch that show. They would take me to watch pop groups from the 60s and the 70s and things. So I was immersed in all these things. And anytime I had like an interest in something, they would always sort of help me to pursue that. And when I was about 6 years old, it's going to seem like a bit of a strange answer, this, but it'll all come back.
I was wondering where this is going.
It'll all come back home in a moment. So it's not going to be a bit of a weird sort of answer, but it'll come back sort of home in a moment. So when I was like 6 years old, I was like really into martial arts. I wanted to be Bruce Lee, basically.
As do we all.
So my parents took me to the local karate club, and I had the chance to train with some of the best instructors in the world. I won't go through all the names, but one person called Mike Johnstone, shout out to Mike Johnstone. I know he still comes to watch me perform now, and his family. And he saw that I was, fairly sort of good, and we would go to competitions, and I wouldn't do the fighting, I would do something called kata, which was like a performance piece, and it almost like a gymnastics performance of all the different moves. So I didn't even realise, but I was performing it from a very young age, doing things. And then shortly after I got into playing the guitar as well, my dad played a little bit and he would teach me. And the head mistress at my primary school, she was called Mrs. Wilson. Shout out to Mrs. Wilson.
So they're all getting it today. What the shout out to you?
I've been watching you. And she would do like a little guitar group every week during lunchtime, and you would go and nobody would practice, but I was really into it, so I would practice. I remember this one week we came and we had to play this little scale or something, and everyone fluffed the way through it and things like that, but I could play it quite smoothly. I remember after playing it, she was like, "Oh, I can't believe you've just done that, you've actually practiced." So she gave me the role of lead guitarist in the group. And every Friday in the assembly, the guitar group would play something, but as that role of lead guitarist, I would get to do a solo piece. And I didn't see it as performing. I just thought this is what you did when you learned guitar.
You're in school, you're just playing. Yeah.
But this all led to this really, really important event. And my parents and I, we still talk about it to this day, that if this particular event had not have happened, then I certainly would not be here today doing what I do for a living. So my mum was part of the PTA at the primary school, and they had planned this amazing talent show where people could come up on stage and perform something, but it was organised in such a way the school had never seen anything like it before. They had big backdrops, it had been advertised, people were talking about it, it was a real buzz. And I must have been about 8 or 9 years old, and my parents had got me this electric guitar for my birthday, and my dad taught me how to play the song Wild Thing by the Troggers. You may have heard of it. Maybe some people listening have heard of it.
These young ones won't know what to talk about.
Okay, it's a great song. You should listen to it. It's a great song. Anyway, so we had been practicing for ages, and then it got to the day of the talent show, and there were going to be people going up on stage doing magic, telling jokes, doing dances, singing, and I was going to play this song on my guitar and sing it as well. And I was the shyest person, and I still am quite a shy person to some extent, but everyone was so excited about this talent show. I remember we got home, and it was that night, the talent show, and my mum called me into the dining room with my sister, and she went, "I've got something really sad to tell you." I said, "Your grandpa has died, he's passed away." And your dad, that was my dad's dad. And he said, "Unfortunately, we're going to have to go to your grand's and sort things out. You're not going to be able to do the talent show. But don't worry, we'll ask Mrs. Wilson if you can do it, the following week." So that was that. We were getting ready to go to my grand's, and about 5:30, my dad came home and he went, "Right, Alex, come on, pack your things. We're going to the talent show." And my dad was comparing the show. And somehow, even though this terrible thing had happened, his dad had died, he managed to put all that to one side, because he knew just how important this show was for me to go and perform on stage and play this thing we had worked on. And he was comparing the whole show. And still to this day, I'll be forever grateful for him for doing this, because we got to this show and I got on stage and the lights were shining down, the audience was filled. I still don't know how my dad did it. And I went to play, and after a few moments, people were cheering and people were screaming. And it's called getting the bug. I got the bug for performing. I knew that at some point in my life I had to be a performer. I suddenly got what performing was, and it was the most amazing experience. And had my dad not have come home, I wouldn't have gone to the talent show, and this would never have happened. So I got the bug for performing at that point, about 9 or 10, and then shortly after I started to get into, I got into magic. Magic really got into me, if that sort of makes sense. There was lots of shows on TV. David Blaine had just started his street magic specials, biting coins, throwing cards through windows, levitating 6 feet off the air. I I thought, oh, this is so cool. There was that show called The Masked Magician. I don't know if you remember it. That guy would show a big illusion and then show how it worked. And I thought, oh, this is just too cool. I've got to do this. I've got to do magic. And one of my friends down the road knew a quick card trick, and he showed me, and I was showing people this trick at school. Everyone was gathering round, and I thought, oh, this is what I've got to do. So my parents saw that I started to get a big interest in magic, took me to the library. I got all the books out on magic. I think you could get a maximum of 10 books out or something from the library. So I got all 10 books out. And every night after school, I would start reading these books. And they were the only books my parents could get me to read. I didn't want to read Biff, Chip and Kipper books and things like that. Had to be a magic book.
What about Harry Potter? Harry Potter has not been mentioned once.
We'll get to that.
No, yeah, we will. We'll get to Harry Potter.
Yeah. So and then I started doing like little shows for like family and friends when they come to their house. It'd be like, oh, Alex, Auntie Pat's coming to the house today. Do a little bit of magic for her. Or at Christmas time, family would come over and start doing little shows. And it started to go from there. And then I was about 13 years old, and somehow my dad managed to get me onto a wedding fair at a place.
13?
Yeah, at a place.
Shout out to your dad, by the way. I don't want to brush past that. What he did, you mentioning what happens.
Yeah,
it's just like
it's
what a dad he is, by the way. Because you put your kids first, don't you, in every scenario?
Yeah, I couldn't wish for a better sort of mum and dad. I really couldn't. They're just tremendous. So somehow he got this.
Wasn't ready for this.
He got me onto this wedding. I think, he was a mortgage advisor, and I think he did a mortgage for someone that worked at a place called Ribby Hall. I don't know if you guys have worked there before. Shout out to Ribby Hall. And
I'll just sit off.
And but obviously we do lots of wedding fairs and exhibitions and things, so we're quite comfortable doing them. But at that age, I had no idea what a wedding fair was. So I remember being stood behind this table and people walking past and things, and obviously who's going to come and book a 13-year-old for the wedding and things? It's the biggest day of their life. My parents would walk past going, oh, that was a great show you did for us the other week and things, trying to entice people to come over. Anyway, somebody a week after rang me up and they said, we saw you at the wedding fair, would like you to come and perform at our wedding. And I was so excited about this. I remember ringing my nana up afterwards saying, Nana, I've been booked and things. And my nana and gran would absolutely love my magic. My gran used to call me Mr. Magic. So I would ring her up on the phone and say, hi, Gran, it's Alex here. Oh, Mr. Magic, you can't make my back better, can you, and things like that. So this wedding was booked in. It was like in a year's time. And I had one of those little pocket diaries. So I was there on the phone writing down all the details. Then they rang up a week later and said, can you come and do a christening for us in the Lake District? It's in about 3 weeks' time. And I was free. And they said, how much will you charge? And I had no idea. I think I said about £25 or something like that.
Yeah, that's where we all start.
And I was going to be there for 3 hours. And bear in mind, to travel to the Lake District and back,
more than
probably more in that and petrol. So I went down there to perform, and I was so nervous, because I'm actually no longer doing it for family and friends. I'm doing this for a real audience who I don't know. And I can still remember and still to this day, I'm still scarred slightly by this event.
I can't wait to hear what's happening here.
So whenever you see me perform, you will very rarely ever see me have the deck of cards inside the actual tuck box that they're in, because something happened. I went up to this group, the first group that I was going to perform for at this christening when I was 13. So nervous. I walked up, I was like, excuse me, my name's Alex, I'm going to perform some magic for you. I took the cards out the box, and this pack of cards was set up in a special order to do a special sort of trick. And the glue on the bottom of the box had come loose and opened. So I pulled the cards out, and this flap opened on the bottom of the box, and all the cards just fell out all over the floor. So I'm on my knees picking up the cards like this. Obviously, I couldn't do the trick I had planned to do and things.
The 52 card pickup trick.
That's the trick I had planned to do it, but yeah. But I didn't realise it was a really great lesson, because I had to improvise there and then on the spot. So that went on, and then I would do little shows and events. And one of the sort of big things that happened, I got a chance to perform at a local restaurant. And that's where I started to really learn about performing in what I call the real world. And when I say the real world, I mean, you've got things going on that are unpredictable. You're not in the nice environment of your home. You've got people that you're performing for who you don't know, drunk people,
I was going to say drunk
and
people,
things like that.
Yeah.
I went there, and because I'm quite a small person, and when I was like 16 as well, all the tables were quite high in the bar, so I couldn't really reach over them and things. And I suddenly realised...
your card there?
Yeah,
just there.
That's the one. I realised all the tricks where I would count cards out on the table, suddenly they were useless really in the real world. Well, I say useless, there's always a time for them, but it wasn't something I could do table to table because tables had spilt beer on or glasses on or plates of food, and if I did the trick here, no one there could see what was going on. So I suddenly had to start relearning all the magic again, but make it work for the real world, and I learned so much. And from that, I started to get other events. People that saw me at the restaurant would go, oh, we've got a party coming up. Can you come and do this? Or we've got a christening coming up. We've got a house party. And it went from there, really. And then eventually I started to try and break into the wedding market, going to wedding fairs and things like that. And my dad would come along with me initially to the wedding fairs. And he would do like the sales pitch. I would perform the tricks, and I'd say, I'm going to hand you over. I called him in.
To my agents.
I'd say my manager.
And he Dad's taking a cut by this point because he's like, I started this.
Hey, you'll give him ideas if you say that. And so he would like do the sales pitch, and we started to get a few weddings booked in and things like that. But I knew I wanted to try and get in with like specific venues and things like that. And I feel very, very privileged that there are certain venues that I'm known as like the recommended magician at. One venue that we spoke about already is the West Tower.
Shout out West Tower. I'm beating you to it this time. You're not having that one.
Absolutely. And but it's an interesting story how I got there. And I know I owe an awful lot to the West Tower as well. So I turned up there sort of out the blue one day. There could have been a wedding going on. Fortunately, there wasn't. And I knocked on the door. And Maria, who works at the West Tower, she was so kind. She invited me in. She gave me some time to talk to her. And she allowed me to share some magic with her as well. And then she recommended that I could come to one of the open days. And I owe an awful lot to Maria for inviting me to come and do that.
That's lovely the way you've just been able to like knock on the door and they just welcome you. I think that says a lot about the venue.
Really does.
And Maria especially as well, because obviously we know Maria and we know she's lovely. But I did not know that's how that's... Because I don't know if, like, for people who haven't been to West Tower, it's not somewhere where you could literally walk up to.
No.
But it is
an exclusive venue, isn't
on
it?
its own space, isn't it, really? Except for the people who own the farm next door. But like the fact that you just turned up and just saying, let me just show you something. Yeah,
so she just welcomed me with open arms, and you know, I feel like part of the family now, and there's lots of other amazing venues that do the same. There's a venue called Beeston Manor that just treat me like part of their family, Bartle Hall, and lots of others as well. I won't go through all of them, but I feel really privileged that lots of these venues, they almost see me as part of the team now because I've done lots of events there for them. And
that says a lot about you as well.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Because I think, obviously, from when we've met you on like our first occasions, and then now moving forward, every single time we see you, you're always very professional, I would say.
I appreciate that.
And I do want to go on. I actually do want to touch on the professionalism from yourself, because I feel like I'm taking people out here already. But I have seen magicians in the past who were like drinking on the job.
Right.
Very old school magicians. You know what I mean?
Watch me make this beer disappear.
It's so interesting you say that, actually. I'll tell you a quick funny story, actually. Last year, my dad and I got asked to do a little charity event and do something on stage. And I knew my dad's always wanted to be a magician. So I said, Dad, why don't we plan something and put something together? So we put this little 20-minute show together on stage for charity. And have you ever seen the programme Bottom with Rick Mail and Adrian Edmondson?
Yeah. More my ear to that.
Yeah, well...
You probably weren't even born.
I found it hilarious. You either like it or you don't. But we went on with those sort of characters where I was like the character of Richard, he was the character of Eddie, the one that drinks all the time. And things were going wrong, we were arguing on stage. It was all done very playfully and things. And at one point I sent him off stage. I was like, no, go off the stage. You're not doing this trick. I'm doing this trick. And he comes on with like a pint of beer and he makes the beer vanish by drinking it. And the whole crowd seemed to go wild over that and things like that. But we had such an amazing time, and I felt really pleased that I'd managed to do something on stage when my dad and we did some magic together on there, and it got a really good response. But sorry, I interrupted what you were saying.
No,
I thought I'd quickly tell you that when you went on to
those.
be
I think the reason why we want to get people on, obviously we love the intros and like the backstories, but also we love to see the true personalities behind the people, and the fact that you just step out away from it and like tell a truer story is what we love.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's what everyone loves as well. Like the feedback that we've had from all of our guests and the people who listen to them is you see the real people behind the brands, if you like. Especially with something that's like a performance piece like yourself. Like, I guess people's version of you could be perceived to be different than the real you.
Yeah, well, I definitely go into a performance mode when I'm performing and things like that. So, when like, for example, you've asked Zanda Magic to come on your show today, hence why I'm dressed like this.
Is this not your usual attire?
So, not my usual attire. If you had asked,
not a normal Friday.
If you had asked Alex Hutton to come on your show today, then I would have been dressed, you know, in my
slightly different.
But yeah. So when I'm performing, you see the performance side of me, and when I'm not performing, it's a different side of me and things like that.
Here's one for you. Do you have magic friends? Can I be one of your magic friends?
You can be one of my. You're already my magic friend.
Yeah.
So
A sentence I'll never hear you say. Can I be one of your magic friends?
No, because I think in your line of work, I know you're a performer. You know, I don't want to like start classing you as a magician.
No,
after,
no, you
after
No, I feel like I'm like taken away from you, calling you a magician.
I am a magician, but I see it as I'm using magic to perform.
But you are a performer. You know what I mean? You are a performer. But wait, what you do? Do you have anyone you can talk to me? Oh, the other night I had this trick and it went like this way. I had to like bounce that way and go that way. Someone to like, you know, will understand.
Well, again,
are you part of a magician's guild? I think is what he's asking.
Well, there are lots of societies you can join,
because there is a society. There is like a society, isn't it? You can actually join.
I'm in one. I'm in one.
I know, yeah.
Hogwarts.
Harry Potter's, yeah.
I mean, I don't really have that many people within the magic industry that I'm sort of close with and things, mainly because I now don't really get the opportunity to work alongside another magician, because when I'm at an event,
I feel like there's a lot more of videographers, photographers. There's a lot more out there where, with yourself. Realistically, I'm trying to think of like how long I've been in the wedding industry for, and you're the one I see the most. And that's not just because I feel like we're in the same venue. I've seen you in venues, you know, an hour away from West Tower and stuff like that. So you're obviously getting picked up by a different clientele than you know, likes of West Tower and stuff.
I mean, again, you know, I go back to my parents as well. I mean, my dad's such a great mentor for me, because although, I mean, he knows how most of my magic works because he's seen me when it's not gone right and he's things like that. I'm sorry to say that, Josh, you know, but he's really great for not sugarcoating the things. If I'm doing something and I'm sure I'm saying, work on this new routine, Dad, what do you think? He said, oh, try this instead. Just try it and see how this goes. Or I don't like that. Or I could see a flash there a little bit with a car in your hand or something. He's really good for giving me ideas and things like that. And like,
he's a good judge.
Yeah, really is.
He sat in the house with like a red button.
So I know. I know
do it again.
I know if I can get the magic past him, I can take it into the real world.
So he's the equivalent for you of like Penn and Teller.
Well,
he's like sat there just with like a notebook. And he's like,
I got to meet Penn and Teller the other year and perform for them, you know.
No, you never.
Yeah. You kept that one quiet.
What happened?
So
tell us.
My dad and I, we went to watch Penn and Teller. They normally just perform in Las Vegas. However, they would decided to do a tour and they came to Manchester. And we managed to get these amazing seats. We're like the second row back, so you could actually see what was going on, you know. And it was such an incredible show. You had Teller did this great routine. He's known for it, where he takes all these needles and he swallows them and he pulls them out on a piece of thread. And
yes, I've seen.
You've probably seen it.
Yeah.
And when he did it, it was just like silence in the whole auditorium. Everyone was just on there, even though people had seen it before on TV. It's again, seeing it live is the thing that you can't beat. Seeing it live, it was an amazing show. And afterwards, I said to like the steward when we were going out, I said, is there any chance like we could just go and say a quick hi to them? And he went, I'm sorry, we can't allow you to go and do that. I said, all right then. Went to the next steward and I said, is there any chance we could go and just quickly see them? I'm sorry, you can't do that. And we kept going down the line. They weren't lined up, but you know, they're spaced out and things. And then this one steward went, okay, if you go to this like stage door around the back, they'll be coming out to go to their coach in about 5 minutes. You might get a chance to see them. We went out. There was a few people queuing up. So my dad and I joined the line, and Penn, the big one, came out, the one that does all the talking, and he was coming down the line. He was so like gracious with people, talking to them, chatting to them, taking photographs. And he was coming down the line, and I said, Dad, get your phone ready. I'm going to do a trick for him. I said, I might never see him again in my life. This might be the only opportunity I'm going to perform for him now. So I performed a routine. It was freezing cold, though. If there's any magicians watching, you know, or any performers, if it's freezing cold, it's hard to perform with your hands are so cold. Anyway, I did it, and it seemed to go quite well. My dad filmed it as well, and I gave him like a little card to keep as a souvenir with my business details attached. You know, you've got to do things
you
like
never
that.
know. Vegas.
Can I just say on the line of that, while it's here, did you give them something like this? A bent fork?
It wasn't a bent fork. It wasn't a bent fork. No, it was a playing card, but in a bit of a unique way. I want
to know the trick you've done. That was something that we've seen before.
I'd usually do it for the bride and groom, or a variation of it for the bride and groom.
Okay. Which one is it?
It's usually where sort of two cards sort of fuse together and things like that.
You done that?
I did it. At
a
the other night,
wedding, didn't you?
Like the king and the queen.
Yeah, that sort of thing, and so you can tell a really nice story.
Mirror. Yeah.
So I sort of made a variation of it. I had in the back of my mind, if I meet them, I've got to show them something. So I prepared this thing to show them, and I had built up a story about him and Teller being like a team and sticking together and things. Unfortunately, Teller wasn't there to see it at that point, but hopefully Penn went to tell him. Who knows? I said, if I fooled you, maybe I'll appear on your Foolish show. Not appeared yet, but you know, there's still time.
Still time.
What was his like response? Was he just like,
oh, he was so... He
seen that one?
He was... No, it wasn't like that at all. He was so kind. He went, oh, and he like his American accent. Oh, thanks so much, man. I really enjoyed that. Thanks so much. And
he's a large-than-life character, isn't he?
He's really tall. Yeah. Really tall as well.
But his personality is so like... Well, I think he's got to be, hasn't he? Because his friend's very quiet.
But you think like they've been around the world, they've done countless shows and things, I've seen countless people, but from just to give me 2 or 3 minutes of his time just to at least humour me in some ways, it was a really, really kind thing of him to do, and it's something I'll always remember.
So shout out to you, Penn and Teller.
Absolutely.
If you want to come on, feel free. What does Alex do in his spare time?
So the thing that I love to do is play my guitar. So, like, I'm a classically trained guitarist. So I will...
Well, we can only take pictures, all right?
So I don't play, like, professionally or anything, but it's the thing that I do. So a lot of people, when they finish a hard day at work, they'll go and watch TV and things like that. But what I love to do is just go and sit just for half an hour or 45 minutes and just play my guitar and things like that. And sometimes if I've got a piece I want to work on, I'll spend a bit longer and things. But just there's something about playing the guitar for me that's just a really relaxing experience.
Yeah. Like a switch off.
Yeah, that's my way of...
Hobby.
It's my hobby and things like that.
I think sadly what happens is probably when you were growing up and you were growing the business that you've got now, magic was the hobby.
Yes, yeah.
Where now it's work.
Well, magic still is my hobby. I just say it's a hobby that got out of hand, you know, and things like that. But certainly, when I'm not doing magic, I just like to play my guitar and things like that. I don't really watch much TV, really. I suppose the program I do watch is the American Office. I do love the American Office.
Good humour.
Do you have a hobby?
I go to the gym.
Oh God. And Beth, you go Pilates.
Is that not okay to go to the gym?
No, just sometimes, you know, it's just anything else. I don't have any hobbies, you know, do I?
Oh, you need to
collecting
get
Harry Potter merch is his hobby.
That's definitely your hobby. I wouldn't even say that's your hobby. I'd say that was your full-time job.
No, I don't think I've got a hobby. And I think I don't know, I think I need
Is this like, so here's a little question for you more than anything. So obviously, people by now, if you don't know, Josh is like obsessed. You are obsessed to some degree.
No,
with Harry Potter. And obviously, is that the love of the magic or is that the love of the films? So having Zanda in, is this like your wildest dream?
Do you know what? I must admit, because you've never really mentioned Harry Potter to me before, I'm like, are you a fan of Harry Potter? Truthfully,
I'm not like a mega fan. I do quite like it, but I'm not a mega fan. You know?
Yes, son. Because, and obviously this might be offensive. I don't know.
I've just never got into it.
But because Harry Potter's not really magic, is it? It's the wand.
Well, he's born to
Anyway, go on.
A wizard.
What was you going to say?
This is offensive, really, to Alex. But because you are strawberry blonde.
Oh yes,
and there's a famous ginger family on Harry Potter. Is that like a thing that people say to you sometimes? Like Weasley?
Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes when I know they're going to say it, I'll beat them to the joke and things like that.
So
you've heard it before?
Oh, yeah.
Of course you have.
Well, I don't know.
It doesn't, the most famous ginger family in the magic world.
It doesn't offend me in the slightest, things like that. It just
I wouldn't let it.
I think in some ways that could like play to your advantage as well. Because based on the way that you're saying that, it's more about, not more about, but it's a lot about entertaining the crowd rather than like what you're actually doing. Yeah, that's probably another way for them to like the ice to be broken, I guess. In some ways,
if you can beat them to the joke and things like that, it puts them a bit more at ease. Everyone was thinking it, but I've actually said it. Beaten to the jokes.
It's like me when I wear these glasses, people just start to call me Harry Potter.
Oh, really?
Which is nice. Yeah.
But an interesting fact about Harry Potter. The person that plays Malfoy.
Yeah, Tom Felton.
Yeah, he was going to originally be Harry Potter.
Yeah, and
then they switched it quite.
Good switch that. I mean, I haven't watched the film or anything like that, but I already know that character would.
Okay, speaking of films, then, what is your favourite magic film?
Oh, that's an interesting question. That,
because I've got mine.
My favourite magic film. See, my favourite film isn't a magic film, but my favourite magic film.
What's your favourite film then?
My favourite film is The Karate Kid.
Oh, which one?
There's only one.
Well, you can go Jaden Smith.
Whoa.
But Jackie Chan's in that one. So,
yeah, but you've got Ralph Macchio and Mr.
I know. But
I believe there is a new one
coming
out.
Yeah.
So that's my favourite film, The Karate Kid. My favourite film to do with magic is probably The Illusionist with Edward Norton.
I've never seen that one.
It's really good.
Good.
Can I ask you a question?
Hang on a minute. I'm on me magic film here.
No, this is still on magic films.
Go on, sorry.
Actually, no, it's not. Go on, continue.
No, I want to see mine.
Go on then.
Have you seen The Prestige?
I have seen it, yeah. It was all right, but I like The Illusionist better. Why
are you not a massive fan of The Prestige?
It just didn't connect with me that much.
All right, Now You See Me.
I've never seen it.
Okay, so
that looks stupid.
I've never seen it.
It's like
it looks stupid.
Well, it's 4 different type of magicians who offer different things. One's like an what would you call them? Where do you like hypnotise you?
Right.
Yeah.
Made you look stupid.
Have you seen the Prestige?
No.
Have I seen The Prestige?
Yeah, Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman.
You slept all the way through it.
You loved it.
You loved it.
Christopher Nolan. It's one of his first.
Yeah, it's a good film. I just didn't really connect with
so
me.
Didn't you, the twist? You didn't. That was the whole point, wasn't it? The twist.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch The Illusionist, that's got a good twist as well. Yeah.
Right. Go on. What do you want to say?
The other thing I was going to say about Illusionist is because I was thinking about it today, is there a difference between what people perceive as magicians and illusionists? And I know there is.
Yeah.
But what would you say the difference is?
Well, you see, an illusionist is generally, you'll see them on a big stage and they'll have like large props, like boxes. They'll put people inside and cut them in half. Or
Darren Brown type of stuff.
Well, Darren Brown's more
sort of
more magic of the mind, if you will, being able to like read what people are thinking, read their minds, and influence them to do something that they don't know they're being influenced to do a lot of times. So I'd say that's a different aspect of magic and illusions, where they make big Ferraris appear on stage or elephants appear and things like that. And whereas close-up magic's where you're doing things right in front of people, like this close, you've got everyday
street magic, would you call it?
Yeah, you could call it street magic, using cards, coins.
I think it's a lot easier to be more skeptical about the illusions, if you like, than it is, because when it's close up in front of you, it's total disbelief, because there's no stage hands or anything. Like, what's that fella, Dynamo?
Oh yes,
is it?
Yeah.
Do you remember him, Dynamo?
He's still about.
No, he's still about, but I mean, he's gone right off the boil, hasn't he?
No, he does.
But I mean,
doesn't he?
He went and done all of those like big things where he was walking on water and stuff like that, and you just thought it's not even believable because it's so impossible.
Oh, we have a skeptic.
I'm not a skeptic. I love the idea of magic and believe in magic, but I just think things like that they're a lot more like.
So what do you think with the likes of like Dynamo and stuff? Because you are in that world.
Well, I think it's an amazing thing in what Dynamo's done. He's had this break, he's had this chance, and he's taken it with both his hands, and he's gone on to do amazing things. So I think full credit to him.
Yeah, right.
I'm not dissing him. He's still great, but there's certain people, entertainers.
Who's your favourite magician then?
Him.
Alright, start some Zanda.
No, do you know I really liked, and you mentioned him already, David Blaine. Like when I started doing I was watching David Blaine's Street Magic. No, but he does it in a different way. I think his persona and how he is really pushes into his thing, and this is like that's like his piece, isn't it?
What?
But I see some of the stuff that he's done. Shazam. Some of the stuff that he done when he was doing that street magic stuff, I was like, that makes no sense. But he's like a bit of a mix of the two worlds, isn't he? Because he'll do the things where he'll put the pins through his hands and all that. Like twist his arm round.
That's been a recent one. The frog's coming up. Seen that one?
Yeah. It doesn't make no sense.
That blows my mind. But the amazing thing about David Blaine, when he started doing the street magic, every other magic show had been about the magician, but he didn't make his shows about that. He made it about the reactions that the audience.
Did you say he was one of the first to really harness the reaction?
That's
more
the
than
thing. So a lot of the times he was doing what you might class as, everyday things that magicians do, but it wasn't about that. It was about these amazing reactions he was getting from doing the magic, and that was all being filmed. And with it being in America, maybe sometimes they can be maybe a little more expressive than we are in England. Sometimes maybe a little bit more reserved in some ways, and no one had ever seen anything like it before, and it was just completely unique.
Do you know where David Blaine's got like Shazam? Did you not ever think about having? Is that even?
That's not David Blaine's. That's Bo Select. That's taking a piss out of David Blaine.
I thought that's genuinely. I half thought that was his catchphrase.
No. David Blaine did this interview when his street magic had started in England, and he had this like tattoo
of an eye,
and he just sat there the whole time and said nothing basically. And then the presenter went, "Why is that on your hand?" And he went, "It's for protection," like that, and then just said nothing for the rest of the interview. But it went like what we would class now as viral, because no one had ever done anything like that before. Yeah.
Do you think talking about viral things and about like coming modern day, do you think people are a lot more skeptical about just magic in general? Do you think people have lost the luster for magic? Does that make sense? Because obviously we're all intra plugged in now, aren't they? And
I don't think they have.
I'm not saying that's true. I'm asking his opinion, because I think sometimes if you go to like anything and you'd say you may be performing stuff like that, there'll be people who will be like cynical and be like, yeah, I know he's done that, or they just totally don't want to believe that it's actual magic.
It's an interesting question. That there's always going to be those people that no matter what you do, even if they are fooled, if you will, that will always say they know how it works and the things. But generally I always find most of the time that there's a lot of people in the audience that you're performing for that really want to experience the wonder of magic, and they're willing to go with it and things like that. And even if in the back of their head they're thinking maybe this is a trick pack of cards, or maybe he's doing something sneaky, he's bound to be doing something sneaky, they just go with it, because this, like we say in our modern world, there's so much going on. It's a break from the modern world when you have that.
You want to be wowed,
wonder.
Don't you?
Yeah, and there's nothing like it.
Do you find it, because I'm going with the modern world approach and making something go viral, and obviously recently I've noticed you've started to post more clips of yourself doing magic just towards the camera, so you're not getting any feedback from that. Is it more difficult, and also is there a chance of a camera seeing something more than an eye?
Yeah, so I've started just experimenting really with being a bit more proactive on social media and doing a few more reels, because for me, the true magic for me is doing it for a real audience.
Of course, yeah.
And you get there's so many opportunities for natural misdirection. Like when I look at you, you look at me, you're not looking at my hands and things like that. But when you perform to a camera, people can play it back, people can slow it down, people can deliberately stare at one thing, and it's a little bit artificial almost doing it to a camera. So I'm just experimenting at the moment, doing a little bit of magic to the camera. But I do find that I have to make sure that my technique is as good as I can possibly get it to be, so that it doesn't, I don't flash or anything like that. Because where I'm at, if I was to flash something in real life, it might be missed because the person was looking at my eyes, not my hands. But on a video, they're just looking at your hands the whole time.
So does this mean you're going to perform magic for us today?
I can share some magic with you if you'd like.
I think now's probably the right time.
I think
so.
Speaking about catching you out on the camera.
Oh, I see.
I want to know. I'm going to listen. I want to enjoy what you're going to do. I'm actually going to trick on myself.
Oh, are you going to show me?
I might show you off camera.
No, I thought he's 100% going to show you this trick.
Yeah, this is like
part of your trick.
I don't want to embarrass
It's
myself.
his hobby.
Oh,
it's my hobby. Yeah.
Well, I've got to see both now, so go on. What are you going to do for us?
Well, I've been working on this for a while where you take your thumb and pull it off. I'm only joking, that's not it. So, as it is customary on your show for some of your guests to bring in a gift for you.
Stop.
I have brought a little gift for you, and it's inside this bag, but it's two things in this bag, but it's not going to make any sense just at the moment. So let me leave this, if it's okay, if I can leave that just there. Just in front there. We'll come back to that a little bit later on, if that's all right.
Perfect.
I'm sorry to destroy the elegance of your display there and things like that.
Shot. Yes.
And in order for it to make sense, I brought something with me inside this bag. Inside this bag, I have the world's most famous puzzle. Do you have any idea what the world's most famous puzzle is?
No.
A Rubik's Cube.
You're a genius, okay? I do in fact have a Rubik's Cube, okay? I'll leave that just in. Maybe it's gone out of shot, I don't know. And I also have another one like this as well. So I'm going to leave this one, if it's okay, just here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to cover it with a bag, like that.
Okay.
So, Beth, your job is to keep your eye on this cube. Make sure no one goes near it. If anyone goes near this cube, you need to stop them. Jump at them, launch them. Throwing your drink is a step too far, but Josh warned me about you, okay? I'm just joking. So I'm going to leave that and cover it just with a bag, just like that. Okay. Okay, perfect. Normally I stand up and I walk around as I'm doing this, but we're going to improvise for today.
The pressure.
I know. So has anyone ever solved a Rubik's Cube before?
Never in my life.
Okay, well, it's because they're really hard to solve. Every time you take it, every time you turn it, it makes a brand new, unique combination. In fact, the chance of you taking a cube, mixing it up and finding another one that's mixed up exactly the same, it's over 1 billion to 1. You've got better odds of winning the lottery than finding 2 cubes that are mixed up the same. But with that being said, there's only 2 ways to solve it. One way is to try and reverse all the moves you've just done, which just makes it even more jumbled up. Or my favourite way is peel off all the stick and stick them back
that's
on.
how I had ever done it.
Back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But what if there was a third way? Maybe we could just use our imagination. Now, if you use your imagination, you should see the moment the cube completely solves. Like,
oh, no way.
Did I mention I was a magician?
Can you see that on the thing?
But you know what, maybe that was a little bit too quick. So I'm going to show you again. This time it's going to happen in less than a second, so don't blink. On 3, 2, 2.5, 1.
Wow. What just happened?
But you know what? Maybe you think it's a fake cube. Maybe it's got a button that you can push or something like that. So I tell you what, can I give you the cube?
Yeah.
You can reach it.
Oh, sorry.
And give it a bit of a mix, a bit of a shuffle, any way you like it. And really mix it up.
Oh my God.
This way it really makes it random and unique. And there's not going to be another one like it in the entire world. And I think you'll agree there's no way I can know how many times you're going to twist it or which parts you're going to twist. And when you're happy, hand it to Ryan to give a little bit of a mix as well. So again, there's no way that Ryan knows how many times he's going to twist it or which parts he's going to twist. It really is completely and utterly random. And only when you're happy, I want you to stop. Are you happy there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to ask you a question now. What do you think the odds are of one side on your cube being close to matching one side on mine?
Fuck off.
I mean, it's practically impossible, right?
Yeah.
What about one side matching exactly? I mean, you would bet like your house on it not happening.
So
I'm going to ask, give it the choice. Do you want
Becky,
to give
we're
it
about to lose the house, girl. What do you want?
Do you want to give it one more twist, which will change the outcome
On the
completely?
top or wherever?
So anywhere you are. Are you happy? You want to twist again? Are you happy?
I'll twist again. Just
If you twist again, making this hard for me. Oh my word. Go on. You happy there?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take the cube back if that's all right from you. Reach over the air. So you agree? This is the one that you mixed up, all right?
Yeah.
And this is the one I mixed up. And it's been on the table the whole time. And no one's gone near it, right, Beth? It's been here the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to work.
A little bit higher.
But that's one side that matches.
You're joking me?
But if one side matches, maybe 2 sides can match like that.
No.
You want 3 sides, I'll give you 3 sides that match. You want 4, that's 4 sides that match. You want 5, that's 5 sides that match, and that's all 6 sides of the cubes that completely match. And I've no idea how you did it. Thank you very much.
Oh my God.
See, so this is where, like you said, like the close-up thing, irrespective, you cannot help but be wild and feel joy. Isn't it? Like there's something about it.
Them type of things, you sit there and you'll sit there for hours and hours being like,
I'll never understand that.
How you've done that.
Even if you
even
if you told me how to do it, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So if I was a real magician, I'd be able to take the cube you guys had solved and I'd be able to solve it in less than 3 seconds. and it would look something like this.
I do not know how he does that.
Brilliant.
I do not know how he does that. Especially one hand as well.
One hand, we can do it.
But
I
you know
can't
what?
do it with two.
I did say though I had a gift for you, and I really do. And I brought it over here. And inside this bag, I have 2 objects. Based on what you've just seen, do you have any idea what one of the objects in the bag might be?
I mean, if there's 2 cubes in there, I'm just going to go home.
Close. I actually have 1 cube, and also, do you know what that is?
No.
That is a little empty glass jar. Normally I do this in your hand, but I'm going to try this out. I'm going to put that just here. It's going to happen on 3, 2, 1.
You are joking me. You are joking me.
I don't even know what's just happened now. So inside here, we really do have a cube in a jar, and that is my gift.
You are joking. You are joking me. How have we done that?
Well, Beth, cut to yourself there, Beth.
How?
Let's see you.
That was brilliant.
Oh my god.
It's just like
Zanda. Wow.
I thought that could be something you could put on your display, maybe.
This is definitely getting put on the shelf.
100%.
This.
It's on display. That fork all of a sudden just seems a bit like...
Listen, that fork's still precious to us.
That fork was actually a fork that you did bend. This is not something that I just picked up before and put up as a card. You bent that for us at a particular show, so we kept that in homage to you, but this is just blew it out the water.
That is literally blew my head
Let me
off.
see.
And do you know what? I know we're recording still, but I'm just speechless, to be honest with you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's real, obviously. It's not like
It doesn't make no sense.
illusion.
I try to leave people with impossible souvenirs and objects like that, because that's something that I'm hoping you'll keep, and every time you see it on your display, you'll go,
There's a
"Remember
story."
we had Zanda in there, and he did this, and he did that, and he put the cube inside the jar and things for us."
That is incredible. But on the subject of talking about things to keep, so we can smooth past that a little bit. That was phenomenal. But in terms of like keeping, obviously we said last week that I was going to start doing segments.
Yes.
Now the segments have lined up so nice. It's almost like you've magically made that the perfect segue, to be fair.
Say?
Because I brought some objects in
Okay.
of sentiment, things that are irreplaceable, stuff like that. I actually brought something in for you based on
right.
that I was hoping you were going to do
that.
for us to give us. I was like, I need to put that down now. And it's because talking about things that you can't replace. There's a meaning, there's a moment, a purpose behind things that you have. Now, I had this thing in ours, which I had not in that pocket. Nope, not in that pocket.
You can come and tour, right?
Thanks, Pete. Pen, I'd be so proud. But I had this thing in ours, which has been in ours for I don't even know how long, and it's just been sitting on. Basically, there's like a little shelf in our bedroom, and we've got certain things on there that are like meaningful to us. But somewhere in the mix of it all, I had this.
It's a bottle opener.
So it is a bottle opener, but it's like a steel ace of spades, of course.
Okay.
And it's never had any particular meaning of any description whatsoever. But I thought, is this not the perfect time to bring this in? Hopefully have you sign, which immediately gives it purpose and meaning.
Wow.
Okay. So this is the thing. So you can do that in your
I
own
was genuinely
time.
wondering why you've got a Sharpie pen.
Oh,
wow.
You can do that in your own time.
Okay.
Little signature on the bottom. But the little segment was...
Ryan, he's good. He's done. Do you know what? I am so proud of you. Because the amount of months and weeks I've banged on to him. You need to come with prep. You need to come with prep. You need to come with prep. And look, he just blew it.
So
out the water.
So I'm gonna. So this is gonna slightly derail the kind of the magic, but it encapsulates the magic, if anything. So I was going to talk about, as a topic, sentimental things.
Okay.
And specifically during wedding days that you can pick up. Obviously, you've just mentioned it. You'll give people things that you'll irrespective of what that costs or anything like that, that's important to us now and shows sentiment. Likewise with that little card was going to be the sentimental part. But I brought in a couple of sentimental things that people typically might have during wedding days.
Lovely.
That don't necessarily have a massive cost, but have true sentimental value.
Definitely.
And these two things people will often see on wedding days. So these are the stuff actually from my own wedding day. So this is the thing that I bought for Becky, which is a little charm, would you call it a charm? Of her nan, who sadly passed away a few years ago. And I got her to put on her flowers, and the little message inscription on the heart on the bottom says, "You are always in my heart." So that was a way of being able to keep her nan at our wedding. Obviously, she couldn't be there in person, sadly, but we bought that. And that only cost me about £15. It's not like sterling silver or nothing, but in talks of things that you could give to people that have true value and meaning.
Massively.
Huge. And people do this all the time at weddings, if you didn't know. And Becky, in return, without me knowing...
No, but can I just on that point, I think there's probably a lot of people who are planning weddings who might not realise the little details and touch like that can mean so much more.
The smallest details are the biggest details.
So often. If you are planning a wedding and you have sadly got someone who can't be there, little things like gestures and gifts like that can go so far to people.
And Becky got me this little pocket watch. Today we become Mr. and Mrs. Worthington, 7th of the 5th, 2022. I think she actually stopped it at the time that we got married. It doesn't actually run. Oh. But talking about like sentimental things, and all I was going to ask you guys is, do you have things in your possessions,
honest,
wedding related or not? No, not on you, but just in general, that are sentimental to you. And this is for everyone in the room, yourself included, but we'll just have a little
good talking points, really good talking points. I definitely love the watch as well, and I love the fact that it stopped in the time that you're getting married. Again, another great gift for me, the guests, to the couple or the couple buying things for each other. It's just something that, as you said then, it's very sentimental. It wouldn't be worth, sadly, it wouldn't be worth anything to me or anybody else in the stream, but to you, that's priceless. Yeah, very priceless gift. For myself personally, the most sentimental things that I've probably got are... it's so hard, isn't it?
I'd say based on recent events, the films that your mum gave you.
Yeah, massively, yeah. Which again, all the feedback we got from that on socials.
Are we going to release that?
Yeah, I said I will. I'll upload.
It would be amazing to see.
I'll upload it to YouTube. Once this podcast goes out, and I'll put it in the link, and you can go and watch it in your own time if you want to. But yeah, thanks to everyone who got back to us on that and said they want to watch it. Yeah, footage is really sentimental, and you haven't got that back. Sadly, I've just lost someone in my family, and even in them moments, that's all you've got really to look back on. I know people always go towards jewellery because jewellery represents a significant point in their life, so either your wedding or an anniversary or a birthday. Because I'm mine, it's, you know, in my life, I'm trying to think of like things that I've got, and one of my gifts is probably a watch that was bought for me when I was 18. So that's something that I can always just go towards. But I'm a bit of a weirdo really, because I always think about like day-to-day stuff that would mean nothing to anybody, but would mean the world to me.
I think that's what I was getting at with this, is like often it's the things that other people don't see value in that you do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times they're like memories, places you've been, places you've visited. I've got countless things in ours that like wouldn't make any sense to anybody, but have a real like meaning, position to me. A lot of people will just throw them out.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I was trying to get out of us, and to try and show to the people. Like, I think talking about modern days and stuff, sometimes sadly people think that it's like the most costly of things that mean the most because it's got the highest value. But often, clearly, it's the things that have little or no value are the things that mean the most.
I am genuinely sat here trying to think of things that I've got in my possession that I've kept for so many years that mean everything to me, even though I don't look at it every single day.
It's because I've put you on the spot.
But I've never,
I'm trying to think too, because obviously as soon as you mentioned, I was like, what can I think?
But I do keep a lot of stuff that people, if someone gives me a gift, I keep everything.
Do you have anything?
I don't have a huge amount of
specific performance.
I'm not
moments in time.
Sorry, just to interrupt you. I am not like a minimalist type of person. You know, when people like just don't have anything and just get rid of everything.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'm not saying I'm a hoarder, but I like keeping things from like childhood to now. Like genuinely, it's a bit worrying that I've got every single phone that I've ever had.
I'm similar. I keep a lot of things as well.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. And because you just never know when you might need to go back into them, and like photos and things, you can never get them back.
Irreplaceable, aren't they?
Yeah. As far as like sentimental things I've got, I've got a watch that my nana gave me. I'm not really a huge fan of wearing jewellery like rings and watches and things like that. But I just keep it in my sort of wardrobe at home, and it's always there when I'm getting dressed. I always see it there and things. I've got a card that my nana signed a few years ago before she passed away, and she wrote her name on it, and I wrote my name on it. It's actually in a little picture frame, and it's in that picture frame. It's got a picture of my granddad in, and I never met my granddad because he died many years before I was born. And so they're like things from family members that I've got which are sentimental to me. From like an actual performance, something that I've kept and I'll always keep is I had the great privilege of performing at Barbara Knox's 90th birthday party. Now Barbara Knox plays the character Rita in Coronation Street.
Yeah, okay,
and I was asked to create a routine for her to do for her birthday, and I can't show the routine on camera or like video because I'd have to ask her permission to do it, but I can show you off camera at some point because I filmed it to send her to after the event as well. But she signed a card with her name, and I've got it on my wall and things, as I thought she's like an icon in.
Oh, she is massively, yeah.
Soap.
In the soap industry, she's like probably one of the.
And I thought, and then afterwards we sat down and we chatted, and she was such a lovely person, and so I've got a card that she signed just on my office wall that I just keep there. And I thought that was a big event.
Do you know the fact that you've just mentioned the signature thing, your nan's signature? I've got a really close relationship with my granddad, and I've always said to him, I'd love, because it's something that you never see. Someone's signature, and I remember one day I said to him, this is quite funny, I went, I want your signature, because obviously one day, sadly, when he's still here thankfully, but when he's no longer here, I've got something that like you just take for granted, you don't ever get to see. And I went, give him a piece of paper and I went, just write that down, and he just went, P. Walsh. There's nothing to it at all. And I just went, yeah, okay, no worries.
Jazzed that up a bit for us, mate.
I was stood there and thought, oh, great. I had such like a really sentimental thought process in my head about how like that would mean everything to me, this like cool signature, and it was just P. Walsh.
Block capitals.
Genuinely.
One thing I have seen people do, I know my mum and my sister have got one of these. When someone's died and if they've been cremated and you've got like ashes, they can get like some of the ashes put into like a necklace, like a pendulum,
I've seen that,
necklace or in earrings and things like that. So in some ways it's like the person's always with you to some extent and things. It's quite a nice thing if you're into sort of wearing jewellery and
I think
like
I love token gestures. I think like more than anything, like obviously we're in a position where very privileged to be able to give people back memories, and I think because we all have like such short-term memories these days, having something physical to look at is more than anything like the best thing. I think that's why we still give out USBs, isn't it? Because you can see it, like it's tangible, like you can hold it, it's in the palm. Did you have anything that you didn't know?
I'm thinking because we've got a lot full.
Well, I'm just gonna give you something now because it's been looking at me all morning. And it just seems a little bit funny. It's not, probably you're not going to keep it because it's staying in here, but I'll just award it to you.
Oh?
If you want me to sign it, is the camera on you?
Yes.
If you want me to sign it later, I will do.
That is, do you know what? That is, shout out to Estelle, by the way, who took them photos, because she smashed it there.
Yeah, Estelle Lace.
She made you look so cool.
I know. It's for someone who isn't cool at all. But Estelle, funnily enough, this is not probably a shock to people, will be on this podcast in the very near future. So you've heard us talk about Estelle quite a number of times. You'll actually be able to see it in real life. So be prepared for that because she's a whirlwind in the loveliest possible way.
Speaking of whirlwinds, what a windy day it's been today, by the way. Surprised we all made it here. Honest to God, I seen
Storm Ian.
Storm Ian. When you said your name, Storm Dad was called Ian. I was so close to saying anything to add on that, Ryan?
No. So in terms of then, if like say someone books you or they're thinking about booking you, and obviously there's massive parts of the day which you wouldn't be able to entertain people at, like so the ceremony, like you might have just mentioned. Where would people fit you in?
So typically there's 3 parts of the day where people will book me to perform during the day. The first part would be during the drinks reception and the photos. So after you've had your ceremony, normally you might find the photographer will do a big group shot, a confetti shot, and then the couple will get taken away for their private photos. And that's when all the guests are kind of left by themselves. And a little bit like we mentioned earlier, they'll go into their own sort of friendship groups, and you want people mixing and mingling. You don't want the bride and groom thinking, oh, our guests are left without us there. They've left without any entertainment. So having the magic there works great for breaking the ice, bringing groups together, getting everyone talking. And it means you can give the bride and groom or the wedding couple sort of peace of mind that the guests I've got some entertainment.
Yeah, they're not twiddling the thumbs out. You've got you going round.
So that's one option. Another option is during the wedding breakfast when they're actually having the meal. So I don't perform when people are actually eating, because I always say it doesn't matter how good you are, no one wants you to find the six of clubs when they're eating and things like that. But it's because it's a staggered service, they serve the top table first and the serving staff work their way down, and they serve sort of tables 9 and 10 last. It's very staggered, so there's opportunities to go to the table when people are waiting to be served, or they finish one of the courses to entertain. And a really great time as well is actually after the meal, during that sort of quiet lull where you've got a room turnaround or an evening reception coming up, because there's nothing going on usually in that time. Usually the venue are turning the room around, getting it ready for the band or the DJ, that sort of thing. So, and the day guests are kind of just left with nothing to do. So it fills that gap really well. But it also means when the evening guests come, they get to experience the magic as well. So usually people will choose one of those options.
What do you prefer?
It really depends on the specific wedding day and the size and the size of the wedding.
I feel like I put you on the spot there a little bit, being like, right. What one do you prefer?
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, it depends on the wedding day.
I was going to say, I can imagine in the later one, the people might be a little bit more tipsy, merrier.
Yeah,
so are you not?
It can happen. It depends on what else you've got going on in the day and things like that. I often would advise couples, let's say you've got a singer there and a magician, you could have them together. It does work having it together. Quite often I'll do weddings where we work at the same time, but sometimes it's a good idea to spread the entertainment out throughout the day and things like that. So it really depends on the wedding, and sometimes
because the lull period is important, I think, to fill with some sort of entertainment.
100%. And sometimes I'll do weddings where it's very different than your typical wedding. Like a few months ago, I did a wedding. There was only 9 guests there.
Wow!
So they didn't have the structure that we've just spoken about. And I had such a wonderful time. So they hired me for the wedding, and we had the private function room, and I did a close-up show for them. And it was just the most incredible thing, because I had this group of 9 people sat around a table. I was there, and I could really take my time. I didn't have to worry about any interruptions or anything like that. And we could really just go with the flow with it all, and it was wonderful. Yeah. So I love doing intimate things like that.
I was going to say though, because I've seen you at work at weddings. I know, and obviously you probably, as you say, the bigger the wedding you are, you splitting your attention to everybody as you go round, every single person, so everyone gets to witness what you do. But I've also seen magicians who will, once the desserts are finished, they will do like a big finale in front of everyone. Have you ever done it like that before?
Yeah, so if I'm booked to perform during the wedding breakfast, I'll do like a finale piece for everybody at the very end. So all the tables have seen me, had a taste of the magic, and it's a nice way to bring the wedding breakfast to a close before you lead on to the speeches and things like that. And often you've got to improvise a little bit and adapt what you do, because the layout of every venue is a bit different. It's a little bit different than being on a stage where you're elevated and everyone can see you. So you have to adapt what you're doing and things. But it's great fun doing things like that. And when you've been around the tables, you've noticed certain people on the tables that are really into it, and you can really get them to, you can play on that and really get them to sort of enhance what you do.
Well, I was going to say, I've seen people at weddings you've went over to, like, let's say on the first table, and they've been that impressed. I've seen them like follow you round to other tables, and I'm like, that's because we're capturing you to trick people. I'm like, mate, you've been here 5 times, go away. Like, I want someone else's reaction.
Like a continuity error for you.
The continuity error, So it looks like the same. You do,
but it's great when you get people following you, because obviously they're enjoying it. Obviously they want to catch you out, but I think as well, a lot of those people, they want to see
people's reactions.
They know how they react. They want to see, is everyone else going to react the same, or they're excited. They know what's going to happen, but obviously the audience watching don't. They're waiting for that moment. They're almost as excited as I am, because obviously I know it's going to happen, but they want to see, are these people going to react the same way? So I quite enjoy it when people do that.
Yeah. And then also, because obviously we are speaking about like your services on a wedding in particular, but how to put it, the booking process I was going to go on to basically, and say like, what would you suggest to couples who are interested in your services? How quickly should they book you, or is it like last minute? Well, the worst question, by the way. I just went round the world.
I know what you're asking. So it's one of those things with any sort of wedding supplier who you're going to have at your wedding. If you know you want them at your wedding, it's worth hiring them sort of when it's feasibly possible for you to do. Obviously, money comes into things, and paying deposits, and you've got to look at your entire budget. But if you know 100%, I want this singer at my wedding, or I want this photographer, the later you leave it, the less chance you have of having them, because especially if it's a prime date like a Friday or a Saturday. So I've had some bookings taken for 2 years in advance. I'd probably say the typical is people might book me 1 year in advance and things like that, because usually there is a hierarchy. People will book the venue, the dress, the photographer, videographer, okay, maybe catering staff, and then they'll start looking at entertainment. But I actually just posted a review on my Instagram page before, and I was reading the review through, and this couple saw me in 2020.
Wow.
And they had always kept me in the mind, which is a great honour that they've done that, because it was like 4 years ago, and their wedding was last August, and they said, we were the first person that we booked for our wedding. We got a venue, and we knew you wanted you there, so we contacted you and we got you for the wedding. And
that's good.
It really is a great thing for them to say that, because usually that wouldn't always be the case. They would go through the hierarchy that I just mentioned and things.
Do you think people are more like, they're getting this idea that there's no such thing as a hierarchy anymore? Because I think that the more public people are making themselves, like, you've got people now who are like bigger than, like, say somebody else that they went to, so they'll put more emphasis on like the entertainment area rather than the people who are doing the photos. I think that's more acceptable now. That's like a general question for everyone, really.
Yeah, I hope that might be the case, but as I said, every wedding is unique and different, and people have got their own plans for it.
Yeah. Well, I've just seen, Josh's like news roundup. I've just done a bit of research and found out someone, basically, because when you mentioned about budget and people going, I'm going to book them, but I'm just going to wait a little bit later and stuff like that. This couple had got married on like I wouldn't say a shoestring budget, but the budget of the wedding, and had come to it and they didn't enjoy it. The day, which is a bit sad really when you think about it. So they're redoing the wedding again.
Wow.
That's the story. Basically, they're replanning the whole wedding day again, because the way they went about it the first time just didn't live up to, not that it lived up to it, they just didn't
feel that buzz.
Didn't go, let's book that,
Does that mean then the second time around that they book things either more expensive or more in advance?
Well, I would say they would book things that, because funny enough, I was having a conversation with someone who's planning a wedding. Shout out to John. I want to give a shout out to him. We were speaking yesterday to him about him planning his wedding for September, and he was saying that we're just going to do it our way, which I was like, that's the best way to do it. You can't fall into the bracket of being like, someone says to you, oh, you need wedding cards, you need a wedding cake, you need wedding flowers. Like, I'm just trying to name a lot of suppliers that I'm not going to like feel like bad about me mentioning, or even like singers or bands or anything. You've got to do it the way you want to do it, so you don't look back and regret it. But if you are, if you do want to perform like a magician, or you do want a band,
don't ever say the word magician again.
if you do want these things, and then it does come down to budget, sadly, it's one of them. It's a one day thing.
Klarna.
But it is that sort of thing. Obviously, you don't want to put people in financial ruins because they're trying to have this big massive wedding. It's just doing the wedding that you want. Don't feel the pressure of having certain things and not having certain things. You just do what you want to do.
I think that's a great point. It's their day, and they should do what they want to do for their wedding. And it's very easy to be influenced by other people who have been married, saying, "Well, you've got to have this," but it's your special day, and that's all that matters. Really.
We see it all the time, don't we? Where you see the couples who've been either influenced by recommendations and stuff like that, which benefits us, but then also you can see the time where, I'm not going to name names, but I've seen it at times where certain things are booked for the couple, and you can see the couple didn't want it. Yeah. And I think,
you mean like on behalf of like a family member?
Yeah.
So interesting point, saying couples that don't want it. Sometimes I might meet a bride or a groom and they say, we don't want a magician for our wedding, but we actually know our guests will really enjoy it, but we're not really that interested in having a magician, which is fine. And then I always suggest, well, having the magic during the drink reception and the photos after the ceremony is the perfect time, because they'll be away having all the photos taken and things like that.
You won't even see me. I won't you. Invisibility cloak.
Absolutely. And it's really, the main emphasis at that point is for the guests. And if they want to see some, that's fine. But if they don't, that's also fine as well.
Yeah.
So if you are a couple that do want a magician, but you're not that keen on magic yourself, having it during the drink reception and the photos is the perfect time.
Definitely.
To have it, really.
Definitely.
It's question time.
Hey.
Does that seem as magical in real life?
it's a surreal experience in real life.
Yeah. And to witness it in
the thing is,
flesh,
when it's close up, it's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've got some questions for you, Joshy. What have we got?
So we've got one from one of our best listeners, really. He is always listening and always comes with questions, which means the world, especially when we have a guest on, because it makes it a bit interesting. And it's from our good friend Ian Hanlon, or as we like to call him, Hanlon. And he's sent in a question for you, Alex, and it says, are your hands insured?
It's a good question. That at this current point, no, they're not insured at this current point. No.
Health insurance, I think it's a big... We're going to get a response on this. No. Health insurance.
I do have, health insurance and things like that, but specifically insuring like the hands and things like that, not at this current point. No, but that's a good question. That
do you protect your hands?
I was going to ask that. Yeah, do you have to put hand cream on? You
probably saw me before we started filming. I was putting hand cream on my hands and things like that. So probably we're going a bit off topic now, but
that's what we love.
But whenever I do washing up and things like that, I always wear rubber gloves and things because the soap's very corrosive on your hands and things like that. And sort of grown up playing the guitar and things, I've learned to keep good care of my hands and things like that. So I always try and protect my hands. If it's cold outside, I wear gloves and things to stop my hands drying up. And I won't put my hands in anything that I don't know what's inside,
Don't we all?
When you're putting your hand in a cupboard and things you've not used to clean out and things.
Well, I notice when you go to the bins and you want to shove the bins down, you think there's a tin in there that's going to cut you. Happened to me. That's now.
Do you know, just on the topic of hands, right? Mine are actually dead because of a number of reasons. One, I go to the gym, which Josh, so I've got all calluses there where you get on the bars and stuff. But over the last week, I can't tell you how many times I've given myself a paper cut on everything. Done. Those little pictures that we've just put up here that you might see behind our heads. The box that I opened
him trying to act like he's done a good bit of work going on about the paper cuts. A detour.
Oh, Josh, is that you? Anyway, I paper cut my hands on one of those boxes, and then when I actually got some of the papers out, the actual pictures themselves, I cut my other hand. Yeah, it's These need to be insured as well, Absolutely. No one's going to press a button on their own.
Yeah, but any manual work, a few weeks ago I was moving some fences and things like that, and to stop myself getting splinters I wore proper gloves and things for it, just because you need your hands to...
These are the money makers.
Well, these are the money makers, babies.
And we've got another question in from our good friend Violin Around. And he's basically sent in a question. What's the worst? Shout out to Violin Around. What's the worst / best heckle or interaction you've had from a guest during a trick? What stands out the most?
Oh, it's a great question. Violin Around is a great guy as well. So, I don't really get that many heckles and things like that. And I think the thing is, if anyone does heckle me, I'm not going to get into a heckling fight with them and say something back. Although a lot of things might come in my head of things that I could possibly say, because you're never going to win against a heckler and things like that. I've had a lot of strange things happen in the past and things where people have grabbed the cards off me and things like that. And
really?
Yeah, and as you get more experience, you'll learn to look as if you've lost control of the situation, but really you're in full control and things like that. If someone wants to grab the cards from me, I'll say, yeah, sure, you can take them, shuffle them, I don't mind. Cost you £5 though, but that's fine, and things like that.
Yeah.
And they can shuffle them and things, but really I'm in control, I know what's going on. Interesting story though, one time I was performing and this guy chose a card and I was ready to get the card back. This guy took the cards off me. It was very heavy-handed. I think he was well hydrated on alcohol, let's say, this person. And the person took the card and he put the card back inside the pack. And I had lost control of where the card was. I didn't know what the card was or where it was. But I just sort of acted yeah, it's fine. You shuffle them as much as you like. Just acted yeah, it'll be fine. Really, I've got no idea what I'm going to do at this point, but I'm just going along with it and things. But I noticed when he put the card in, he was so heavy-handed, this person, he had put this big bevel in the card like that. And he was shuffling them and things. And I just try and stay calm in those situations. And I think, whatever happens, it'll be all right. It's like having a big brother looking over your shoulder going, it's okay, just go with it and it'll be okay at the end. And this guy was shuffling the cards and things. And he goes, you're never going to find this. I said, I probably won't find it, but I'll do my best for you. And he finished shuffling and he put the cards on the table. And I noticed this top card was beveled. So he had shuffled his card to the top of the deck by pure chance. If he's watching this now, I'm sorry for ruining the mystery for you. But I had no idea what it was. And I thought it was just a chance. Maybe there's another beveled card on the deck. But surely not. Because when you do magic, you learn how to handle the cards and things. Like when you're handling your camera, you'll handle it different.
I love how he always brings it back to us. Do you handle the camera?
And things like that.
What a guy.
No comparison.
But I saw this card was beveled and I thought, I'm just going to chance it here. And I built the whole thing up. I could have just said turn over the card, but as you get more experience, you learn to build up the moment of magic. I said, I think you shuffle the cards, you shuffle the cards, you shuffle them as much as you like. Would you be amazed if I could find the card? That would be a good trick. What if I could tell you where the card was on the pack? That would be an even better trick. And I always try and do things in threes like the magic number. And I said, but what if I could find the card right now for you, Wendy? I said, turn over the top card. And it was the card he had chose. And it was like pure chance and things, but this guy couldn't believe it. His friend couldn't believe it. They were up on their feet, they were applauding, running around the table and things. I didn't do anything else after that. Because
going home.
I couldn't top it because what they had seen was completely impossible.
Yeah.
And it was like a just chance thing that had happened. So that was an interesting sort of heckle and things that I once had. And then try and engineer those moments again, but where I'm in full control and things like that.
Well, that's the power of what you've got. They don't know what's coming next, do they?
Yes.
So it can go, as I said before, it can go in the wrong direction, but you will always somehow get it back on track.
I had something happen a few weeks ago, actually. I was in a bar, a very tight sort of bar, and I was performing. I had just done a stand-up show for everybody. It was in a cricket club, and then afterwards I was just chatting to people in the bar, doing a little bit of close-up magic. So I always like to talk to people after the event because it's a good way to sort of promote yourself. Definitely, and it's a good way. A lot of people have questions they want to ask you, like when did you first start, how long have you been doing it, and things like that.
Now they can listen on this podcast.
Absolutely. But so I was doing a few card tricks, and it was so tight in this bar. This person walked behind me and they nudged my elbow, and half the deck fell on the floor like this. And obviously that's in some ways classed as a mistake, but I see it as really exciting as a chance for me to improvise and create something that I would never have been able to create had that moment or not happened. And I ended up doing something and it worked really, really well. And an element of what happened, I've kept that in what I do now. And had that have not happened and I hadn't had the chance to improvise, then this little extra element that I do in one of my routines, I wouldn't be doing it now at all. So I love improvising. It's I think it's so exciting when something doesn't go as planned. I think it's really exciting.
Do you think, I want to go on to the next questions because I want to make sure we get them all in, but do you think sometimes when you put into that instinctive format, you perform at your absolute best? Because I mentioned it on a recent one of my posts as well. Sometimes there's a moment in days, and you probably think the same as well. There's a moment in days where that camera just sort of almost goes out your hands, and it's just you were just in the right place, the right time. The sun was coming down the right way, and it's more of an instinctive play rather than a thoughtful process. I love that.
It's great because you can imagine if one of your stands broke that you were filming, you might have to walk around with a camera, but you might find actually doing that gives you some shot you would never thought was possible.
Happens all the time. I do loads of no look shots. Obviously you see fuzzy players sometimes.
Bobby Firmino.
And they pass without looking and stuff like that. It's kind of putting a bit of a spin on your own stuff, isn't it? Gives it a bit more excitement to yourself.
Creative.
Anyway, next question.
Next question is from Charlotte Nadine 91 on Instagram. And this is for everybody. What advice, we'll start with you, Beth. What advice would you give to someone trying to make it into the wedding industry? Alright, I won't come to you, I'll go to Alex. Zanda.
Well, I suppose whatever you're doing, you've got to really love what you do, and it's got to be a big passion for you. And if you've got that passion, then I think you'll be willing to put in the hard work to make it happen. And trying to get into the wedding industry, I suppose a great place to start is going to wedding exhibitions and wedding fairs, meeting potential clientele, but also meeting
networking,
other suppliers as well. And that's a great way to get into it.
Yeah, I was going to say to that question, whatever your business is, making the couple feel like they need it rather than just wanting it a part of their day. And basically, and even if you have to, I think for us when we started off, trying to do a lot of free work just to see if your business suits the wedding industry, and then also, again, advertising through the experience of being at weddings, I would say. Anything to add?
Just echoing a little bit of what you said, but also saying just be patient with it as well. These things don't happen overnight. We've been going, I don't even know how long now, since 2014, 16, which in our world is still baby steps.
Yeah, definitely.
People have been going 20, 30, 40 years in our industry. So don't assume that you're just going to be able to have this great idea and it's just going to work straight away, unless it is something totally brand new. like have the patience and, like you say, network with the right people, and just know that you believe in yourself enough that it will work. I would say is probably a massive one for me, because it's so easy to give up, especially, and not to go back into the modern day thing, because we're so instantaneous with everything these days. We feel things are happening overnight, but if something's worth having, it's not. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah, and I think networking is huge, because I feel like you're not only like pushing yourself on social media, but like if you're networking with other people, then they can then suggest it to their clients and their couples, and you just expand it from there. But you put in the hard work and you will eventually reap the reward, so just keep going.
Don't be afraid to start small, I think, is a really good one. Like you said there, you did your first gig for £25 or something like that. I did my first ever wedding for, I think it was £125 for the entire day, and I left and came back.
We did a few for free, didn't we, Beth?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So don't be afraid of that. Like, start small and know that ultimately there's like the bigger journeys there for you.
Yeah. And obviously, I think nowadays we're all lucky enough to have a platform of social media where it's free marketing. So you've just got to try and find your clients as well through them platforms. Another question, which was not even through the question thing, was our good friend Maisie Scott. She didn't even want to be shouted out, but you're getting it, Maisie.
I forgot about that. I was going to say that as well.
You can't get away from it, but you just mentioned start small, and basically what she's sensing is, do we ever do small weddings? Which, yeah, we do.
Yeah, I think it's, I wouldn't say more common, but I'd say people are a lot more, like you mentioned then about like people need to do it for themselves. A lot of people are now choosing, I guess, smaller weddings or weddings that mean more to them, rather than doing the big white weddings type of thing, because that's what they wanted, especially through COVID as well. Like you say, you sometimes do it for like 6-7 people when you were allowed. I think that's told people that small weddings are totally okay, and in a lot of ways more intimate and more meaningful, because there's so much more attention on what's actually happening.
No like wedding politics involved.
Yeah, nothing.
But what Maisie mentioned was like the likes of St George's Hall, where it's like you're in there after 15 minutes you're married, and then you either go home and have like a, you know, I always think about that Megan and Joel's, was it? Megan and Joel's?
That's what I was thinking of, because I was thinking, what was our smallest wedding, and that was probably, it was in lockdown or just coming out. I think they were only allowed 30, if that, including us in the numbers, and they just had it in a church and then went back to the house and had like a little tea
Still breaks my heart though, the fact that her dad, didn't they wear masks coming down the aisle?
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing which I've just remembered then from a conversation I had with a good friends of ours, Bridal Sky. Shout out Bridal Sky.
Shout out.
They actually did the wedding. I don't know when it was, but it's definitely within the last year or so, because they've only been going a short time and doing well in that short time, may I add.
Yeah.
They were at a wedding, obviously documented as wedding content creators, and were actually asked, because the wedding was so small, to be the witnesses to the wedding.
Wow.
I'll
imagine that. Yeah. Imagine you being asked to be a witness to someone's wedding day.
I have been a witness before.
No, but I mean, like, to someone you don't know.
I basically, yeah.
So talking about small weddings, you probably couldn't get any smaller than that.
Yeah, I love small weddings. I think it's, you, like you say, you've just got the very immediate family there, and it's just about the couple getting married. There's not, like you say, the politics doesn't come into it and things like that. And I think they're great. I love small weddings.
At the same time, we love a big wedding.
Yeah.
Big wedding. Everyone's from Liverpool. They're the best ones. Go.
And finally, the last question is something that we all want, and I think we all agree on, and it's probably the biggest trick that you could ever possibly do, I think, from our good friend Mimi Bell event. Could you make Ryan disappear?
Oh, did she say that? Is that? Let me look.
Why don't you believe me? I didn't make that up. Mimi Bell event.
Can you make Ryan disappear? Right. Girl. Do you know what this is? Do you know what this is?
Your episode is getting wiped off YouTube.
This will be because probably over the last, like, I was just going to say a couple of weeks, but I would now say about 5 months, I've hounded her because I wanted them to do me like a new setup for me open days on wedding shows, and I've constantly been saying, like, can you, as someone who understands what a perfect design setup looks like, make me a stand? And it just hasn't happened so far, but I've just been henpecking it all the time, so she probably wants me to make
never give up, Ryan, never give up.
God loves patience, that's what I've just said.
Yeah. God loves a try. We've got no more questions, but before we wrap up, but not even wrap up this episode, is there anything that you want to plug or tell us about that's coming up in the future for yourself?
Well, I suppose I can tell you about one thing it's still early days and it's still coming up in. I can tell about it if you like.
Is this an exclusive?
Well, no one's heard about it yet, so if it
sounds like an exclusive to me, guys.
To hear about it. Okay.
This is the first clip that you're going to see on socials, by the way.
So best be good.
So, I always like to try and do things to sort of like give back to the community and things like that. So I'm planning to do like an evening of magic coming up. Hopefully it'll be sometime this year, later on in the year, where I'll do like a show on stage and people can come to it. It'll be a ticketed show. Most likely it'll be free to come. People can come to it for free. And it'll be a night where to raise money for a charity as well. I've not finalised the exact charity and things like that. There might be a couple of charities and people can come. They can have a night. Maybe I'll organise a little bar to be open as well. I'll put on the show for them. Maybe it lasts an hour, maybe a little bit longer. I'm not, as I said, we're still in early days of rehearsing at the moment. And they can come, watch a great show, come together as a community. If they like what they see, they can donate some money for a charity. And I'm going to hopefully get maybe some sort of press coverage on it as well and things like that.
Can I just say, as we are the first people to hear that, I would like to also be the first people to say we will attend.
Yes.
Amazing.
And we will plug it to death on this podcast.
Oh, that would be very, very
massively.
Because we love, like, I think we love a charity. Like, we always love giving back. I do things on a daily basis to try and help out, and especially with everything that's going on in and around the Northwest at the moment, around, charities and individuals. I think it's the perfect time for us to try and do something more like that. So we'll be there. And
it's also an opportunity for me to perform something on stage as well. The majority of what I do is close-up magic, and I love doing things on stage, but so I'm putting together a new act. It's still sort of early days in rehearsing and things like that, but I think it's going to be a really good night, and people will just have a great time, and it's a chance for people to switch off from the world for one evening.
Yeah, definitely.
It won't cost them anything. They just come, have a great night, and so that's.
Will we see the guitar feature at any point during the night?
It's one there.
Let's get it out. One of my big dreams actually is to perform a recital on stage, like be on a proper stage and the spotlight on, and have like an audience, maybe 100 people, maybe more or something, and just play for 45 minutes on stage. That's one of my dreams. Yeah. So I'm actually hopefully buying a new guitar soon. So
watch this space.
So we'll see. So when I get it, and hopefully it'll be right, and then hopefully there'll be a recital coming up soon. That might not be this year, but
stay tuned on his socials for that one.
Definitely.
Well, in light of leading back to what I brought as a topic about having things that are sentimental from specific moments in people's lives, obviously we know by now from last year, it's 24.
We all know
that and you'll probably know, because you do watch. It's evidence that you actually.
I think
people say to us, "Oh yeah, we watch it all the time. We know they're full of shit." You actually have backed it up, so you'll know what's coming.
The presentation needs to be better. Doesn't
I know. I've just given myself another paper cut, as if I've actually just given myself another paper cut.
Can we just pass the box over to him?
Yeah, pass it over to him.
This is very excited about this, by the way.
Yeah,
it's something that Ryan obviously invented.
Listen, it's become a thing.
It has.
That's fabulous. Thank you very much. Now, I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Now, I'll certainly be using that and keeping it, and there'll be a picture going up of me using it.
Yes.
Maybe tomorrow when I get around to it, it'll be going.
Nice one. Feel coffee type of guy?
Well, I know, Ryan, you don't like coffee, but
he really does listen to me.
I do listen. At the moment, I'm a coffee person, but I tend to switch between them and things like that. So I'm a coffee person at the moment.
Well, I know we need to wrap up, but what type of coffee? Is it like an espresso machine, or is it?
Instant coffee does it for me. I'm not fussed or anything. Instant coffee, to me, it tastes just right. Often I find some coffees are too strong when you go to like some places,
coffee shops and stuff. Yeah.
So nice. Can I just say though, to wrap up,
definitely.
I know we said about you always wanting to be on and stuff like that, and we were made up that you came and spent your time with us. But hearing your story and the way that you've told it, like so eloquently, the way that you speak, and obviously we've witnessed you live a number of times, but having you here in person, telling us exactly how things came to be.
And performing
has been nothing short of a bit of magic itself, to be fair. I wasn't ready for that, in truth. And it's been nothing but a pleasure for us.
Well, it's, like I said, a great privilege for me to be on your show, and thank you very much for having me down. I appreciate it.
Loved every minute of it.
Yeah. Look forward to part 2.
That's already got the part 2s. Yeah. Just as a last little note as well, obviously we've got Zanda on this week, but tune in next week because we also have another guest next week.
Thanks.
And scene.
Peace.